The busy holiday season found quite a number of passengers inconvenienced due to delayed and canceled flights on the country's national flag carrier this past weekend. But Bahamas Air execs this morning sought to clarify what they say was not a lack of effort on their part, but issues which were simply beyond their control. Managing Director Tracy Cooper explains.
Thursday afternoon, there was a severe thunderstorm that came across the Florida region and also across the island of Freeport. And that weather or disturbance, as we'll call it, caused the closure of all of the airports in Florida that Bahamas Air flies to. That included Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and Orlando. We were not able to fly into these destinations simply because the weather was bad and the airports were closed.
Cooper says there's also the added fact that there were equipment issues at the control tower.
On Friday, when we tried to then recover from that, on Friday afternoon around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I believe, the control tower here in Nassau indicated to Bahamas Air or to our pilots and our crews that the radar was down. And this took place, this caused Bahamas Air not to fly for about an hour and a half, going on to 2 hours, and then we had backup situations after that. We simply could not get in and out of Nassau because the radar at the airport did not allow flights in and out of Nassau. This compounded our situation in being able to perform flights, and especially for our family of island flights that are day sensitive, it really had an impact on it.
Now to those passengers who felt the airline company could have been a bit more informative with their updates, Cooper had this to say.
On each of the airplane, on the jets, we were talking about 120 persons, and on the Miami Air jet, we were talking about 168 persons. So this was a large amount of individuals that had to be communicated to at all times. Not all of them were cooperative. Some were understanding what we were trying to communicate. Others just wanted to know, listen, I've been around too long, I need to get where I'm going. We were updating our staff to update the traveling public, but you have to understand, particularly on some of the days, if on a Friday afternoon we couldn't fly because we were told that there were problems with the radar, then it's difficult to talk about how you're going to, here's your adjusted schedule, when we ourselves were trying to understand what we could or could not do.
Now we can tell you that as of this morning, Bahamas Air confirmed that all passengers impacted by the delays and their luggage have arrived at their destinations, with the exception of those passengers that traveled last evening. And the Public Hospitals Authority has concluded its investigation into the death of 25-year-old dialysis patient Neil Johnson. In a statement released yesterday, the PHA noted that the internal investigation conducted revealed that the patient began receiving dialysis treatment at the Princess Margaret Hospital in October this year. At the commencement of his treatment, Mr. Johnson received information regarding his diagnosis of renal failure, the requirements for renal replacement, dialysis therapy, and the life and death implications of the scheduling requirements of his treatment plan. According to reports, he was slated to have dialysis on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday of each week. However, records retrieved from PHA revealed that he was non-compliant. During the month of December alone, Mr. Johnson missed scheduled appointments on the 3rd, 7th, 10th, and contrary to media reports, he also missed his appointment on the 14th of December. When Mr. Johnson presented on December 17th for treatment, all available treatment stations were in use and he could not be accommodated due to a shortage of staff in the dialysis unit. Following this, he was clinically assessed in line with protocols and given another appointment date. The statement adds that Mr. Johnson was further advised to restrict his fluid intake to less than 500 milliliters over the next 24-hour period and to avoid high phosphorus and potassium containing foods like fruits, potatoes, and citrus products. The PHA noted that patients who voluntarily miss treatments must report to the hospital's emergency room for assessment. Before a patient is deferred, he or she is evaluated and triaged, and then the next available time for treatment is given, usually within 24 hours. Meantime, the coalition of concerned citizens in Grand Bahama had their hands full, getting some 300 residents of East and West Grand Bahama to sign letters. The letters call on the government to intervene on the high cost of electricity on that island. That's head of the coalition, Pastor Dr. Eddie Victor, who added that over the past few months, in addition to gathering signatures, the coalition held a number of town meetings to inform the public that Northern Bahamas Utilities has made applications to the government to build solar power plants in West and East Grand Bahama, which Dr. Victor says will lower the cost of electricity by some 30 to 40%. Dr. Victor further expressed confidence that the Northern Bahamas Utilities would be a better power generator than the present Grand Bahama Power Company. Now, the coalition has been petitioning this vexing issue for the past 5 years. Once all the letters have been signed, Dr. Victor says he will deliver copies of these letters to MPs of East and West Grand Bahama, as well as the Prime Minister. You're watching JCN News. Stay with us.
This segment of the news was brought to you by Alive.